Hello, hello to all of my fellow grievers. Welcome back to another episode of Good Grief, Life After Loss. As we all know by now, I am your host, Skylar. I'm so glad that you are here today as we are finishing out this 3-part series called What to Do with What's Left. As you may recall, part 1 was all about ashes. Part 2, we focused on the louder stuff, the clothes, phones, bedrooms, the big things. And today's episode is about the quiet stuff. The keepsakes that we just don't know what to do with, but we know that they hold significance. And today I am not here with rules. I am just here with a memory box, some stories, and a few field notes I have picked up along the way. So let's get into it. So, transparently, I have always been a sentimental person. So for me, it made perfect sense to make a memory box. I mean, pretty much my entire life, I have been a person who loves making scrapbooks, who loves making memory boxes. Even when I was like 10, my favorite activity was to ask my mom to pull out my baby book and go through it with me. I just loved like reliving memories and looking at old pictures and love looking at the art I made in 2nd grade that has no meaning to it but makes me happy. So for me, when we got back from Australia, I knew that one of the first things I wanted to do was make a memory box, especially because coming back from Australia, I had bags full of things, random little keepsakes that I had collected that I didn't know what to do with. A lot of them, even though they maybe held no value, felt like I had to keep them or do something with them or make meaning out of them. So with that came the memory box. So I want to tell you a little bit about what is in my memory box that is really all focused on Sam. However, I will preface, what I think is really interesting is that although the memory box is about Sam, a lot of the things in the box did not belong to Sam. They aren't items of Sam's that I kept around. Like I said in the past episode, I have some of his like sweatshirts and flannels, and we have the giant blanket with all of his shirts. But this memory box for me was less about holding on to Sam's items, and it was more about how can I make a box that helps me remember this time in my life. And although it was obviously the worst ever time in my life, I still think it was worth remembering. So I think you'll see what I mean as we get into some of the items in the box. So starting off, the first item in my box is Sam's Old Spice spray can. Just like many teenage boys, Sam was obsessed with his Old Spice cologne and would wear it everywhere, and if you walked through the hallways of our house, you were probably suffocating in the scent of his cologne. Though transparently, I do love the smell of Old Spice, so I was never too against it. But after Sam died, the very first thing I grabbed and put in that box was the Old Spice spray can, and I remember I would spray it all over my pillow, all over my sweatshirts. Like, I just loved that smell. And although it was certainly not unique to Sam, that is for sure, it just reminded me of Sam. And to this day, I mean, my boyfriend wears Old Spice and it still makes me think of Sam. Okay, so the next thing in the memory box is probably the weirdest, and that is a thing of packaged plastic utensils. And that sounds strange because it is. But these utensils are from the hospital cafeteria at the hospital where we spent almost a month at Sam's bedside. And I think when you spend that much time in a hospital, really there's not much to do besides sit by someone's bed and eat the hospital food. And for me, that time at the hospital cafeteria became like the small bit of brightness and happiness in my day. And I became friends with all of the workers there, and they would give me free drinks. And I just remember like that was the sometimes only good part of my day, was getting to go have lunch at the hospital cafeteria. So as weird and strange as it is to have a thing of plastic utensils in the memory box, it also makes perfect sense. Something else that is kind of sad in the memory box, which makes sense, something should be sad, is a poem I wrote probably the same week that Sam died, maybe the day after Sam died, if I'm being honest. And the very first line of the poem is this. It reads, "An only child is what I am. That's what I felt when I lost my brother Sam." Now, is that dramatic? Yes. Is that heartbreaking? Yes. But it also serves as a reminder of what I was feeling in that time, in that moment where it kind of hit me like, holy crap, I have just become an only child. So I think that is an item that needed to be in the memory box. A few other things I have in the memory box. I have a lot of cards from people. Like, I have an edible arrangements card. That was a note from someone tied to the outside of an edible arrangement. I have like notes and cards from other people. A lot of notes from my soccer team. They all wrote us cards. So I kept some of those in the memory box. I also have the program from our first ever Live Like Sam fundraising event. Although that was years after Sam's accident, and most of the things in the memory box were from the few weeks after his accident. This is something that I felt the need to go back and add later to the memory box because it felt like a new memory we were making with Sam and about Sam. So I think the program felt like the perfect fit for the memory box. Other things I have, newspaper clippings from articles that were talking about Sam and his accident. I have some gold ribbons because in the few days after Sam's initial accident, my friend and her mom actually passed out gold ribbons kind of all over the schools, and everyone was wearing gold ribbons for Sam. Even the dogs had them wrapped around their collars, and all my friends would send me pictures of their hands with the gold ribbon on them. So I actually have a bag of those gold ribbons that they had given us. So that bag is in the memory box as well. And the last thing in the memory box that really stands out to me is a children's book. It is called The Story of Little Baba G, and if you have not read the book, it's a great book. But the reason this book holds significance is this is a book not only that Sam and I loved to read when we were younger, but it is also the book that for some unknown reason I decided to bring to Australia, and I read to Sam in the hospital every single day. And I don't know why I picked this book, but it will now forever be the book that I read to Sam every day in the hospital. So I kept the story of little Babaji in the memory box, and I am so glad I did. Because for me, the whole point of this memory box is finding little things to bring back memories. Because honestly, there are so many things that I have forgotten about those few days, weeks, months surrounding Sam's death. And I think if you were listening to this, you probably feel the same. Like, we completely lose our minds when a person we love dies. I think as a coping mechanism, our brain does everything it can to shut it out, to not remind us of these horrible times. And so for me, like if I close my eyes and try and remember the worst month of my life when Sam was in that hospital, like there's really only so many details I can remember, and there are many more details that I do not at all recall. And honestly, there are a lot of things that I'd completely forgotten about. I completely forgot that the highlight of my day was eating in the hospital cafeteria until I remembered having the plastic utensils in the memory box. I forgot about the gold ribbons. I forgot that I read that children's book to Sam every day. But that's the point of the memory box, is to help you remember. And even though it's helping you remember like the worst, most painful time of your life, I think it's also so beautiful to have something that can just suck you right back into those moments, even as painful and upsetting as it is. So, if you are listening to this and you already have a memory box, that is fabulous. If you don't, I have not instructions, but just things I've noticed, things that have helped. So I want to walk through a few suggestions for you. First thing is the container really does not matter. It's all about access. So for me, it's literally a box from Michael's, but it can be a shoe box, a cookie tin, a zipper bag, pretty much anything is an option. The priority is that it's reachable so that when you want to remember, you have access to it. Doesn't do much help if it's sitting in a storage unit somewhere or like locked far away. For me, I think as you could probably tell from this episode, it's the ordinary things that hold up and also hold significance, whether it's a receipt, a wristband, a small doodle on a sticky note, a house key that doesn't open anything anymore. Like the ordinary things survive and the meaning of them survives forever. And I think it's those little things that have the ability to bring back such strong memories. Like with the plastic utensils. That is a very weird, strange, and ordinary object to have, but for me, it's almost one of the most meaningful things in the memory box because it has such a strong memory associated with it. Another thing is I think it's important to include at least one sense in your memory box. So whether it's like smell, texture, sound, even taste, I don't know. For me, it was the Old Spice spray can because that smell can bring me back and remind me of Sam. But it could be a voice memo or a voicemail that you have saved on a hard drive. If it's a smell, you could literally like spray the spray onto a cotton pad and seal it up in a Ziploc. I don't know. But I think the senses kind of sneak past your brain when your brain is tired and have ways of reigniting those feelings and those memories. So including your senses in the memory box, personally, I think is a great idea. And lastly, add to it yearly. It does not have to be something you do all at once and then you never touch again, you never add to it again. Like I said, I added the first program from our Live Like Sam event. That was at least 5 years later, but I'm so glad that I continue to add on to that box. And my last suggestion is add to your memory box yearly. It does not have to be a one and done thing where you throw all these memories in it, close the lid, and like never add to it ever again. Like I said, for me, I added the program from our first ever Live Like Sam event. That was at least 5 years after Sam passed away, but it's something that holds significance and makes sense to have in that box. Something I would suggest that I haven't done, but I have decided I'm going to start doing is writing a yearly letter to Sam, and I'm going to keep that letter in the memory box. But I think there's so many other things you could keep in there. Like if you do something to celebrate their birthday or their anniversary, like try and find a little keepsake, even if it's like you went on a hike for their anniversary and you found a rock, put that rock in the box. Whatever it is, I think you can continue to add to it, and that only makes the memory box more meaningful and more valuable to you. On that note, my box is not valuable to anyone else except for me, besides my parents. But it anchors me to Sam, and that is what is most important. On certain days, I can open that memory box and feel absolutely crushed and it breaks me. But on other days, it's almost like a handrail that steadies me and grounds me and brings me back to Sam. I don't really try to make it make sense anymore. If someone were to open this box, they would have no idea what is going on in there. But I just let it be proof of Sam, of my love for him, and proof that it happened, that I was there, so that I can remember that time in my life. So, if you already have a box, I would love to know that one unlikely thing inside yours, the item that you cherish so much that no one else would understand. And if you don't have one, that is okay too. There are hundreds of ways to carry your love for someone. So, this is only one of them, but feel free to write in and share what's in your memory box, or what are you going to add to your memory box if you're starting to make one now. And that is it. That wraps up our 3-part series on what to do with what's left. Part 1 was ashes, part 2 was closets, phones, and rooms, and today was the quiet memory box that maybe you only look at once every 5 years and can still bring all of those feelings back. So, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your week, and we'll talk next time. Bye.